Welcome to the Seattle Bird Podcast. I'm your host, Leo. This episode, our bird spotlight is on the Anna's hummingbird. Anna's hummingbirds are tiny, weighing up to 6 grams. If a human weighs 160 pounds, then it would take over 12,000 hummers to weigh the same. You can find Anna's hummingbirds all year round in Seattle. In the winter, a great place to see them is at the Washington Park Arboretum, feeding on the Mahonia in the winter garden. Anna's hummingbirds are green and gray, and the face and throat of males are covered in iridescent feathers called a gorget that look pink when the light strikes them at the right angle. Some hummingbirds evolve together with ornithophilous flowers, flowers that are pollinated by birds. These flowers are usually red, orange, or bright pink, so that they stand out to hummingbirds more than they would to insects. Recent studies suggest that hummingbirds can even see colors that humans can't see in the ultraviolet spectrum. This symbiosis is the decreased nectar robbing, when animals bite holes in the sides of plants to get more nectar without having to pick up pollen, a disaster for a plant. Also, hummingbird pollinated plants have less sugar, and the sugar has relatively more sucrose instead of fructose and glucose. Hummingbirds can fly forwards, backwards, and hover due to the unique way they flap their wings. They move them very rapidly in a figure-8 pattern. In a hummingbird courtship display, a male climbs 130 feet in the air and then dives down at great speeds. As he's rocketing downward, he makes a loud chirping sound. However, the sound wasn't made by his voice box. It was actually made by wind whistling through his tail feathers. When the sun is out, he will try to orient himself so that the sun glints off his feathers towards the female. And now for some fun facts. All About Birds says that a group of hummingbirds can be called a bouquet, a glittering, a hover, a shimmer, or a tune. Their body temperature is normally 107 degrees Fahrenheit. When it's cold, they enter torpor and slow their breathing and heart rate, dropping their body temperature to as low as 48 degrees. All hummingbirds are members of the family Trochilidae, but some species of sunbirds evolved separately into similar-looking species. Additionally, there are some species of moth that look or act like hummingbirds. The term calypte likely comes from the Greek word for woman's veil or headdress. The genus Calypte contains 2 hummingbirds. Costa's hummingbird, which is found in the southwest U.S. and Baja California, and Anna's hummingbird. Anna's hummingbird is known by the binomial name Calypte Anna. It was named after Anna Massena, Duchess of Rivoli. Here's a bit more about Anna Massena. Her actual name was Anne Desling because her husband was François Victor Massena, 2nd Duke of Rivoli and 3rd Prince Desling. Her husband was an amateur ornithologist, but it was actually René Lesson who named Anna's hummingbird after her. She was appointed Grande Maîtresse for Napoleon III's wife. This in itself is a crazy history. Napoleon III briefly declared himself emperor in 1852 after 4 years as president. He's not to be confused with his grandfather, who also declared himself emperor, but was much more famous. Napoleon III ruled until he was captured in 1870 in battle. Anne Desling was actually very powerful in French court, being the highest-ranked female courtier. Annas are the most common hummingbird in Seattle by far, but the other type is Rufous hummingbird. Rufous hummingbirds don't look like Annas, since they're light reddish-brown and lack the pink neck feathers, but you do have to be a little careful when identifying a fast-moving blur immediately as Annas. The bird calls were recorded by Jeffrey A. Keller, Thomas G. Sander, and Terry Gallion, and were available courtesy of the Macaulay Library at the Cornell Lab of Ornithology. Research is by me with help from Brian. Our sources for this episode are All About Birds and Wikipedia. The audio editing is by me. The theme song is by Felix. I'm your host, Leo. Until next time.